Hello and welcome to this session on Microsoft project. It's an introductory session. I'm Christian from Vision 6D, and this session is here intended for I'm really going to start and to go from the beginning. All of you that are here, I welcome you warmly. It's for me really something interesting to be able to exchange. We'll have the possibility to have questions within the chat. Normally the chat is open. If there are anything, I will check it and make sure that it will be working. So far so good. So I'm going now to change what I'm presenting. Just a second. Behind me I have already a complete project. It's just to give you an overview of the possibilities of MS Project. It's a tool that we use to do project management. And for this you see behind me what is called a Gantt chart. A Gantt chart is what gives you a chronological view of the different tasks that will happen into a project. Tasks, we name them also activities. On the right side of my right side, you see also a table in which you see all the different tasks that we have within that project. So without going any further, I will now sit down and switch this to be able to work with you within Microsoft Project. I hope that the sound is good, you hear me well, so I'm going now to sit down. I've switched the camera so you can see. Once again, hello, welcome, enter the room and let's share things together here. So I'm now into MS Project, so let me just switch back to what I have here. So here is the environment of MS Project. You see that we have here what I call a project which is called CRM. It's something that I use a lot into my teaching. The CRM is in fact a customer relation management system. It's what we use to follow on customer from the moment a customer it is entered into an application till the moment we manage to do a sale, to do the support. We find all the information about the customer into a customer relation management system, CRM. So once again, I'm going to use this through all my teaching here. And by the way, there are already a lot of videos available, and there is a complete series where you have the CRM example that helps you in learning MS Project. So far so good. You see that it's separated in two parts. The graphical part here, and here a table like Excel. So with this, I won't go any further on that. I will start from scratch with you. So for this, I go here up in what we call the back office. The back office, you might know it also from other Microsoft products, from the Office suite of products. And I'm going to start a blank project. There are different kinds of templates that you can use. You can here define a waterfall project where most of the tasks, they are like I've defined them in the CRM project. Some of you might be working in the agile environment, and for this you recognize here a sprint environment that we can also use with Microsoft Project. So in my case, it's simply blank project, and here down, like any other Office Suite product, you find all the files on which you can work, which are project files, and you see that I already have quite a lot of them. So to make it simple, I go here and I define a new project. So it's opening here, and you find it has wiped out everything. It's new. So here is a table information. Here is the place for the graphs, and here up is something that is interesting, which is the timeline. We'll come back to this. Here we have the ribbon here up with a lot of different tools. I won't enter in all of them, but that you know, here for example, you can define what is concerning tasks. Here, what is defining resources, what is concerning about resources. And here we have reports. And here there is all what defines the project. So I will now enter and go. Do anything further, there are important information you need to know. First of all, here down the account, you might be working with a different system than mine. Here's in your version. So this is one thing that I want to make you aware of. Beside that, you see here that there is the possibility of your connection, because today MS Project is heavily linked to Microsoft Online, Microsoft 365. If you are getting a license, excuse me, you will get different type of licenses. They are now called licenses within a plan. You have plan 1, plan 3 and plan 5. I'm using plan 3 here. And of course those plans have different prices that might change, that might vary depending on the country. So you have to refer to Microsoft 365 online to get your subscription of Microsoft Project. What I have here, what I'm showing today, is the desktop version. That is to say that I downloaded something on my desktop, and this is the traditional way as MS Project exists already from its beginning. I've seen that I have a question that is here, which is said, do I talk about project online? So no, this is not the topic today. It might be in a further session where I will talk about project online. What I want to say about this at the moment, it's that MS Project as we see it today and project online, although both are from Microsoft, although both have the name project, they are two different products. So this, you must really understand it. It's really important to get this. So there are many different there are many different applications in the world of Microsoft that can help project management. There is project as we see it, there is project online, there is web online, project for the web, but you also find some tasks, scheduling possibilities in Teams, for example. So, and there are also, to complete this panorama, the SharePoint environment in which you can share files, you can share lists of activities, you can share activities. So all environment has become quite complex with a lot of different products. What I'm showing today is really the desktop product. We are not going to go into how it is connected to Microsoft 365 online, and we stay to simple parts. So with that, it was an extension because I saw one question coming. So I'm now going with you in some other part which are here down. Let me first go into info here, which is something that is important to understand. Your project has defined information like when it starts, when it finishes, and the type of calendar it's working on. You see that here we have different kinds of calendars on which we will be able to work. I'm going to use the standard one. Now, before to go any further, before to start to key in information into MS Project, you should go into options, because there are some really important options that will influence the way project is handling your project. I went here inside directly into the schedule part. You see that you can say here up, for example, when is the start of the week for you. You see that by default it sets this to Sunday. It's not the case. In how I work, we start the week on Monday. So if I didn't change this, I would say later on all the planning starting from Sunday, considering the Sunday as a working day. So maybe for you, in your culture, in your environment, it is like that. That's why you need to set it with Sunday instead of, like me, on Monday. So now, if I go down, you will see here one of the most important thing, I think, for me, because it got me in a lot of trouble with this. It's the working hours. So when do you start? When do you finish? It doesn't have to be exactly what you do in your organization, but just that you know you can change it here. The key element is this, is the number of hours per day. Maybe you work 8 hours a day, which is just fine. Some organizations, some countries, they are limited to 7.5 hours a day and 35 hours a week. So you need to change this at that moment, because as soon as you will enter data duration, Microsoft Project will calculate the schedule based on those values. If you say you enter 1 day and your definition is 7.5 hours, for Microsoft Project it will be 7.5 hours. Later on, if you decide to come back, then it will still consider that you were defining 7.5 hours, and you will find those strange things in your diagrams and duration where 1 day is in fact 0.88 days. These are rests from those option changes, and this, once again, it's really difficult to change them. Later on I would even go back and restart the scheduling with something fresh here sometimes, and for me it's simpler than to try to do all these changes, adjustments of hours. So far I'm here. Now in my case I give the classes in 2 different languages, so I have French. So if I need to change the environment to French, I would come here and move this up, say OK, then MS Project and all the Office programs that are open need to be closed and reopened. That it performs the change, and of course it won't just affect MS Project, it will also affect all the other programs. So here up I will come to the display. You might have here currencies, which is one part, the type of calendar. Here, what is for me, today I'm going to work in euros. So I'm going to change this. The costs will be expressed in euros. There are many other options that you could change, but I just want now to move ahead, and I showed you the most important. So we are now back into this, and you see that we are going to enter data here. And for this, we have maybe one thing that is important. Yes, I forgot to talk about this. It's the task mode. So we are going to look here down. Yes. So auto schedule will help me in setting the chronology of tasks. It's way easier to work in auto schedule mode. So I will say here tasks are defined with the auto schedule mode. This is also something I could change in the options. So here you see I will define a task, and after the duration, start dates, and so on. So when we start a project, we are usually in what we call an initiation. So the first task is initiation. And for this, I entered here a task called initiation. Initiation in a project, it's the time when we say, okay, I need a CRM. Why? How should it look like? Why am I doing this? So this is the part where we define the goals of the project, where we define what we call the scope of the project. So I will add a second task here, which is define the scope. And of course, if I'm doing that project, I said that there are stakeholders. Who are the people I'm doing that project for? Who should I involve? And for this, we will define the stakeholders. This is a second task that I have to do. So once I've done that, I have those major points. I will enter in what I call planning. And in the planning, of course, I will do a general level planning, which I called a macro planning. The macro planning itself should help me to set the major milestones of my project, like when shall it start, when shall it finish, are there decisions to be taken into this project. Now, once I've done that, I also need to talk about the budget. Of course, any project has to have a budget. We need to know more or less how much it's going to cost that CRM project. And for that, once we are at the level of the budget, we need to have an approval. And this is usually done by the stakeholders. As I was keying in that sequence of tasks, you see that MS Project has completed by a value by default, which is 1 day for each task. We'll see later on how we change set. In the graphical part, we have a representation of a task of a duration of 1 day. If I hover over a task here, we get additional information. You see them right there. What you can notice here, it's that any task here, the mode, is defining whether it is automatic or manual. I can come here and change it if it's requested. In my case, I keep this to auto schedule. So we got the approval, and we can now enter into what I call execution. For the moment, this is defined as a task, so it's really then that we start to do the work into the project. So here there will be a part of conception where we need to define what we really want. There might be some development work, and there might be, after that system is an IT system which will be part of something existing in this organization. So there is some work that we call integration. Integration, it's how does our system, for example, communicate with our existing system. CRM is, for example, going to send mail, and for this it needs to have a connection with the mail server. So this is one of the tasks that has to be done within the integration part. So we have integration. So we did the conception, development, integration. Maybe I will add here a task here. Like that, we see how we add a task, which is the installation of the system. So we do the conception, we do an installation, some small development work, and then of course integration. So in this path, and now we have something that is integrated, and maybe now we can test that system. And for this there will be the IT people, but maybe also the user, the future users of that application. So we want to do the test, but of course that before to do the test we should train the people to be able to know how to manipulate that installation. So I will add a task which is a training here that you see, and at the same time, after, once people are trained, we can do the test. With that, we have what is quite conventional in the way to do IT projects. And now, once we tested, we will admit that at that level everything went well. We have one decision to take, to make. It's whether we go or not into production, or, if you prefer, into operations. So there is a decision which is go to production / operation. So this is the way our project is going to move ahead. Once I'm here, we will admit that it was perfect, it went well, everything went smoothly, and as it is defined in our organization, and a lot of organizations following good practices in project management, they do what is called a closing. So I have here a closing stage of the project. Usually it can happen a few weeks after the go to production. Like this, we see how everything went into production, and we can draw some conclusions in order to improve for the next project, correct certain things. So these are the tasks I have defined for the moment for this project. We see that in all we have about 16 steps. It's how I want to keep it simple in what I'm showing today. Of course that if there are questions, they are welcome. I greet those who are following again, because I know that people jump in, jump out, and like that. So this is an overview, an introductory session on MS Project. So we are now at a stage where we should organize a bit all that information. So I've set here up, there is initiation, you see, and within initiation we have two tasks which are define what we want to do in the project and for whom and who are really the people who have influenced project. So what I want to say is these are part of initiation. So I want to ident those tasks. So I'm going to come here up, and you see that when I'm over button, I can get more information on what this button is able to do for me. So I will simply ident those tasks, and you see here we have now initiation, which is in bold and has here a triangle which shows that we have sub-tasks. This shows that there is a hierarchy between initiation and those two tasks we found here. So I'm going to do exactly the same here with those 3 steps which are here. I'm also going to ident them because I want to say that this is part of the planning. Although approval decision is just the fact to take a decision. I need to get some drink. It's getting dry in there. So now I'm going to do exactly the same here for execution, and you will see that I will take all those tasks at once and say that they are part of execution realization. The closing, what we are used to do is a closing meeting. So I will also say that the closing meeting is part of closing. So if now what you are interested is the beginning of the project, you can simply say, I don't want to see the details of execution and of closing. You could also say that you want to do the same for planning and the same for initiation, and then you have just those 4 major stages or steps that we find into projects, which is initiation, planning, execution, and closing. Those are really important parts. You will find that way to organize project. If I open those parts, this can be used for any kind of project. If you have now a marketing campaign, you can say that, okay, I define what I want to do. I defined who is involved, who is going to pay for the campaign, who are my targets. All these are stakeholders. And after that, you can say, okay, I need more or less to plan this. I need a budget, and of course, I need to have everything approved before I enter into execution. And at the end, once the campaign went on, we'll maybe analyze the result of the campaign and do this in a closing meeting. So you see, with this example, that way to proceed can happen to any kind of project. That you have a project in the industry, mechanical industry project, that you are in the construction sector, you will find those steps, of course, with many additional ones, or maybe called in a different way. So with that, I have here all the steps of my project, and we see here that everything came simply in the graphical part. If there are questions till now, they are welcome for this. I will now go into duration here. Here, the macro planning will be, let's say, 5 days. The budget might take a bit longer because we need to do good estimations, so I can say 10 days. And the approval will be a bit different. The approval in the end is a decision, so it doesn't really last. So what I want to do is to say that it's a 0-day task duration. And you will see that something different happened here in the graph. We have a date. So it means this is a milestone. Something happens here at that date, and it is marked by a small diamond that you can see here. So with that, I've done here the beginning of those durations. I will now continue here, and I could do it in a different way. You see, if I open conception here, and I'm saying that here into information, by double clicking, I can change the task name. I can here change its duration. So I'm going to say that the conception is maybe 20 days. You see that it changes also at the same place. So I want to do it the fast way for the installation. Installation will be 5 days, and development here maybe 10 days, and integration will be, yes, I guess 2 weeks also. And training, we will do one session of 2 days, so it will be 2 days of training. Test, I think we'll test during 2 weeks, and the go to production is again a date somewhere, so I will put it as a 0 day. So we see again appearing a diamond here, so we know that we have the milestone. It's really what we want to show into this diagram. And the closing meeting will be, I will say, for about at the moment it's also just an event in the future, so I will set it as a milestone. With that, I've entered duration for each task, and you see that if I go up here, initiation, we have here the summary of what is into the initiation. I will add, and I will change this to 5 days. Okay, so we have all the durations which are here. Now I will start to plan all that, because we see here in the diagram that I have all the tasks defined, but there is no chronology among them. And for this, there is also one component that can be used. It's the network diagram. I'm not going to enter into this now, but be aware that there are already plenty of videos available. After define scope, which is the task number 2, I can come here in this column and I will define which are the predecessors. The predecessors are here, and here I can define scope as a predecessor. So you see that immediately MS Project here changed the following task and had it linked after the number 2. So I can do this, I can continue, but I will do it here in a faster way. I can here select all the tasks I have, and here I have the possibility to say that those tasks are sequential. So this is a shortcut that is really interesting. So once I click on it, you see that the 3 tasks here have come one after the other one, and MS Project immediately changed here the date of the milestone. So I can also come here within the execution, and I will also say here everything is simply sequential. So I have here all those tasks that we see which are sequential in my project. And you see that MS Project immediately here adapted who are the predecessors. I didn't have to enter into this. So of course I could also now take all the tasks and say that everything is sequential as I would like to define it for this project. So I select all the tasks here and I say that they are sequential. So I cannot see everything really well here, but what is interesting is that you will notice here in the middle a green frame that is moving. This is the window of view that corresponds exactly over time to what part of the project I'm looking at here in the middle. So now I would like to see all the project, so I will go into view and we see that we have different buttons, and here I will select entire project. So this is a nice way through which I can now see the entire project here represented. And you see that here, and you have here one green line, sorry for that. That green line is showing you today. So I'm just going to check. Yes, I think the line is gray for you. So let me just see. I remind you that if you want, you can ask questions, but of course regarding the context of the session of today. So we have now already something that is planned, but as I said, it's planned according to what we start today. So what I'm going to do now from here is that I would like this project not to start today, but to start maybe next year, because I'm doing the planning this year, and I would like this project to start maybe in March next year. So for this I go here into project on the ribbon, you see, and I have here an interesting button which is move the project. It opens a small window where I can define here when I want this project to start. And I'm going to move ahead to March, and I'm going to say I want it to start the 1st of March. And I can just say here, okay, and everything has moved now. We can see the 1st of March. We see the date here now. All the project has shifted to the 1st of March. You might have some tasks that haven't shifted. Mine have shifted because they are all automatically scheduled. So this is important, and this is one of the reasons I prefer it. But although I'm saying I prefer to work that way, it doesn't mean that all the tasks have just to be in automatic mode. There will be situations, it's not because it's better, there are situations where you need to set them in manual mode. So we have now a project that is here defined, that we can look at. The schedule starts to ring, it has a start date, and if I go down here I can even see that the go to production proposed date is the 13th July. I'll keep it simple in that situation and will admit that the stakeholders are just fine with this, that it starts the 13th of July by going to production. So this is now, for the first time, we can start to say we will be in production where we are going to be done with the project. Of course, that if this doesn't suit, so there needs to be a rework of all the planning of the project. But for that introductory lesson to MS Project, I would like to keep it like that. So once we've done that, we've scheduled, we've given duration to task, we've defined a certain chronology, so it starts to resemble the simple way a project should be. We can at that stage already say how time-wise this planning is going to happen. So at this stage you are already able to plan your first project. Maybe now, if you want to discuss with the stakeholders to get an approval on the project, it's maybe interesting to be able to show them a planning in a more simple form. And for that, we are going here to use the timeline. So now we see that initiation here. There is also another point that I would like to emphasize. It's, you see that you have now within the summary task, you have the total of the sub-tasks, which is coming up here. So you see that we have 25 days for initiation, for planning it's 15 days, execution it's 57 days, and closing it's 0 day because we've defined 0 days. So what I would like to do is to show to the stakeholders now that how this project is going to happen and what I request from them. So for this, here onto initiation, right click on it and go add to timeline. And you see that the duration of the initiation here has come in blue and is shown up here like that. I have that information. I'm going to do the same here with the planning, and I'm going to add it to the timeline. You see? So I've added here the planning. So maybe here I will maybe change a bit the color, that we can see that these are different stages of our project. And now I can do also the same thing with the execution, but I want to do it in a different way, just that you enrich a bit your knowledges. So if I double click on this, it opens for this summary task the information window, and you see that here I can come and say display on timeline. So for this I'm going to add it here, and you see that the complete execution is in there, and I'm going to add a different blue. That one is a bit too dark. Like that I have the 3 different stages, and maybe I would like to add here below the part, so we see at the end here represented the closing, which you couldn't see because I was hiding that part in front of the screen. So you see that we have here a representation of macro planning at the timeline level. What I want now, it's also to have the stakeholders being aware that I need their help for the approval. So I want on that timeline the approval to appear. So I will add it to the timeline. So what I'm doing is that I'm adding a milestone to the timeline, and it's an important milestone because I want it here. It's the decision of go ahead of the project. It can be let's move to the execution phase or not. So I'm wanting to have them being aware of this date, and I think that the go to production is also something that should appear on the timeline, like that they have an idea of when they call steering committee of your project. If there are questions at this point, I would be glad to answer them. I think that with that you saw what is really the base into MS Project, what we call just the planning or scheduling of a project. There are many times when I had my first projects where I wasn't handling the cost part. This is enough. It's enough to start and to move ahead into projects. So with this at that level, set the correct time or the currency in which you are going to work. And we saw the timeline, how you can use it in a simple way to present your project. We also saw how to move a project that it corresponds to a real date when you are really going to start the project. Now, I have many videos at your disposal that details all the different stages, steps where you can learn more. I'm to stop here that first session. We are going to do next Thursday a second session on this, where this will be the start, and we will look at how we assign resources into this project. So for this, it will be next week, and till then you have the time, and I encourage you to recreate what I've created here. I'm looking if there are questions. No, I don't see questions. So I thank you all that really followed me here into this. I hope you enjoyed it. So you can sum up, you can comment, you can share this with your friends. Share also the idea that was live session. You can improve knowledges we all share about project management and about MS Project. It will be not only about MS Project, it will also be about project management in general, and there will be also, and there were already sessions which are more oriented about the body of knowledge in project management, to give the opportunity to everyone to increase knowledge of project management in general. So I also welcome your feedback, where it's subjects that you're interested to treat or to see treated. Those sessions, they will be followed in the sense that it will raise from a beginner level to an intermediate level, where you will have knowledges in the terms of planning, assigning resources, costing a project, and then doing the baseline, follow up on a project. All this will come week after week, and you will like that increase your knowledges on how to use and how to extend what you do, or what the way you do project management. One last point, we use the waterfall method, the conventional way of doing it. I will also in later session do it in agile way, because I see a really extensive change now, where organizations are mixing different ways to work together, and those different ways to work together, they adapt them to their specific context. And from the PMI beginning next year, we'll see the introduction of what is called disciplined agile, where it's a set of methods where you can use all different kinds of methods, just adapt them, find an efficient way to adapt them to your context. So next year I'm also going to do lives on this subject, on the evolution of project management, and to try to find good ways to do and to bring methods which you can use and adapt to your own context. So this is it. Once again, thank you so much for participating in this session. I hope that you appreciated them, so you can like it, comment, share with your friend, and all what is left to me is to wish you a really, really good time and I hope to see you for a next session. Bye bye.